Good evening. I'd like to call the January 21st, 2021 voting session to order. Please rise. Flag, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
Pauline, will you please call roll?
Mr. Ambrose?
Present.
Mr. Bloom?
Here.
Mr. King?
Here.
Mr. Moad?
Here.
Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
Mr. Ross?
Here.
Dr. Eunice?
He's here, but he stepped out for a second.
Mr. Zaritsky?
Here.
Ms. Belcastro?
Here.
The school board met in executive session this evening, beginning at 6:15, to receive information from the superintendent related to an intergovernmental agreement without further deliberation. It's not listed there, but the board also heard information from the solicitor on the status of an ongoing personnel matter, as well as two ongoing personnel matters. I apologize. The next section there is public comments on agenda items. We have several forums for receiving public comment tonight. We received a few via email before the meeting. We have several members of the public in attendance who may wish to comment. And we also have our virtual spreadsheet, which I'm already seeing a few coming in already. I have to format those, but okay, we're going to start with Mr. Moad is going to supplement some of his comments he made during last week's work session. He's going to do that. I'm going to read the comments that have already been received for the meeting. We're going to let any public people who are here speak, and then we're going to read the comments on the spreadsheet. So I'm going to anticipate that that's going to take probably till about 7:15 or 7:20. So if anyone's who's watching virtually, you could please submit your comments before that time. They will be read during this phase of the meeting. Anything that's time stamped, let's say after 7:15, they will be shared with the board at the end of the meeting during the period for general public comment. So,
you clarify, is this just on agenda items comments?
yes, and I apologize. This particular portion of the meeting is for agenda items only. If you have something that is you wish to comment on that's not on the agenda, please reserve that to the public comment portion at the end of the meeting. Mr. Moad, if you'd like to begin.
Dr. Perry, were we able to put these 4 slides up? Or?
Yes, we're going to do that right now.
And also, I forwarded these to the board also. Last week, I had asked just a little more specific information from the committee regarding enrollment figures, test score numbers, and I was able to find that information. I just put some slides together today to get them up to just run.
Hey, would you let me know when that's done?
More down here.
Donna.
Right, what's the slide? There as well. And Mr. Moad.
Okay, so the first slide is just some enrollment figures on the largest districts in the county. Basically, Central Valley and Blackhawk are the 2 largest. There's a difference from K through 12. by one student. So these are the largest districts in the county. There was some concern over us possibly losing students because we don't have all-day kindergarten. Every district in our county, with the exception of Beaver, is on a 10-year negative trend for students. We are the least of those at negative 4.98, which is about 122 students over a 10-year period that we've lost. Just for perspective, Beaver at plus 1.97 is plus 40 students. So while we may think we're losing students to other schools in the district that have all-day kindergarten, these numbers don't bear that out. There are districts with much larger negative percentages than ours. The second slide is just the enrollment at Baden Academy for the 1920 school year. So it was also stated that it was basically Ambridge, Aliquippa, and Central Valley made up all the students there. If you look here, and I'm not listing all the districts, I'm listing the districts with the highest enrollment at Baden Academy. If you look at the grouping below Rochester, Beaver Falls, Central Valley, Freedom, New Brighton, and Hopewell, we're all about even with the enrollment we have. So it's not all-day kindergarten that's sending kids to Baden Academy, because there's other students from districts with all-day kindergarten that are going there. And if you look, those are all smaller districts than us. So the percentage of students for us is actually lower. Now, the third slide, I had asked a little bit about our scores. You know, there was thought that we are cheating our students. Our students aren't getting the education they should be getting, and that is not the case at all. Whether these scores are good, bad, or indifferent, they're here. These are true scores for the years stated. So third grade math, third grade language arts, and fourth grade science are the first data points that we're able to judge how our students' performances are for K1 and 2. Before that, there's no testing. So this shows where we rank in the county. So if you look at third grade math, Central Valley in the 18-19 year, we're 4th. Baden Academy is 10th. They have all-day kindergarten. All the other schools in the district, all the other schools in the county have all-day kindergarten, yet we rank 4th. 17-18, we ranked 3rd. 16-17, we ranked 2nd. Baden Academy is far below those rankings with all-day kindergarten. Third grade language arts, similar. Now, whether you're happy with 8th and 7th in the county, these are numbers that our administration and our teachers use to find where we're falling short with our students and rectify why and how can we change it. So whether you're happy or not with these numbers, we're still ranking ahead of a lot of other schools. Now, when you get up to the 4th grade science, you know, 3rd, 4th, 5th in the county. Could we do better? We'd love to do better, but is all-day kindergarten the answer to that when all the other schools in the county have all-day kindergarten? I don't think that's necessarily the expense we need to take to do that. And then the last is just showing our achievement and growth at the high school level. So you can see where we rank. I wasn't going to go through every grade level. This information is all very readily available. So if you look at the high school level, this is the achievement test that the students have to pass. So in literature, we're 3rd in the county, algebra 3rd in the county, biology 5th in the county. PVOS, which is the growth component. So no matter how bad or good you're doing, you still want to see growth. So if you're high on the achievement side and you're high on the growth side, that's really where you want to be because your students are achieving, yet they're still improving. So if you look at the PVOS scores in literature 3rd, algebra 1st, and biology 5th. So we can always be doing better and we're always striving for that. But I just want to make it clear that we're not cheating our students. Our students are not getting the short end of the stick by not having all-day kindergarten. Our students are performing very well when compared to other districts within the county. And that's I just wanted to clarify some things for last week. It was information I had asked. So I just wanted to clarify I was able to find that. So if you want to go to public comments.
Thank you, Mr. Moen. I'm going to read.
You can switch that back up.
I'm going to read the comments that were received by the district prior to today's meeting. There's about 7 or 8 of them. First is from Elizabeth Cutlip. Hello, I'm a mother of 3 children, and I believe that it is very important to have all-day kindergarten. I listened to the recent school board meeting, and I was upset afterward. I never realized how much education our kids are missing out on with half-day or how strapped the teachers are at Center Grange with time and space. Kindergarten provides the foundation for our kids' education and future success. As a district, we should do all we can to make sure that our kids have the same opportunities as neighboring schools. Right now, CV kids are at a disadvantage because they don't have the same amount of education in their first year. Expecting a child to learn everything in just 2 to 2.5 hours a day compared to approximately 6 hours is not feasible and not fair. Over the course of the school year, that's approximately 360 to 450 hours at CV compared to at least 1,080 hours at neighboring schools like Beaver. Even with great staff, it is not possible. I truly believe that you will see this affect school test scores in the coming years. It is in the best interest of our district and our kids to make we make all-day kindergarten possible. Please consider my request. Unfortunately, I cannot attend the meeting this Thursday because of work. I appreciate all the time and efforts put in at the recent meeting. I surely learned a lot. Please consider voting for all-day kindergarten. Next is from Angela Burnett. Hello, I am a parent of children in the Central Valley School District. In my opinion, I would like to see the money spent on renovating the middle school instead of spending millions of dollars to add full-day kindergarten. The middle school impacts 3 years of a student's life, whereas kindergarten is only 1. Although half-day kindergarten is an inconvenience to parents, the middle school is in very bad shape. As a matter of safety, its renovation should be top priority. As an educator myself, I don't see my own children as being behind academically compared to the same age children in other districts. Next is from Danielle Boyd. Good afternoon. I am writing to share a public comment on the full-day kindergarten feasibility study. As an educator and parent, I have always been from the school of thought that full-day kindergarten is best. However, my child, having gone through CV's half-day program, is no further behind than his peers in other districts. I also know that the district does offer full-day opportunities for those students who are in the most need, which is a great option. I know that a full-day program would help many families and may be a great option in the future, but I do not believe now is that time. The cost to fund such an undertaking is quite large, and it was my understanding that there are other projects that are also in the plans, i.e. middle and high school renovation projects. I believe the budget would be better served being used to complete these projects first, and perhaps in a few years, if the budget allows, it be reconsidered. This has been a trying year for many students and families, and I appreciate all of the time that went into preparing this study. However, as a member of this community, I do not believe now is the time, and other projects ought to take first priority. Next is from Carrie Piper. I have a few comments and concerns that I wanted to share before the meeting tonight. First of all, I am not opposed to full-day kindergarten. I also realize that we are the only school in Beaver County without it, but I think we should be looking at and comparing test scores in 3rd grade up to 12th grade to see if our kids are actually behind those districts in education. There are many bigger school districts, while not in Beaver County, that still have half-day kindergarten, such as North Allegheny, Seneca Valley, Mount Lebanon, Pine Richland, and Upper St. Clair, for example. Without comparing test scores across the county, I believe there are many other things to consider. I also find it hard to believe that full-day kindergarten is the only reason parents are sending their kids to Baden Academy. There should be a change made in the school district paying for kids to go to charter schools, not necessarily in us being able to pull those kids back to our district. There was also mention of the state moving toward mandating full-day kindergarten. If that were to happen, I believe that the state would also then be providing money to the district to aid in the renovating the school to accommodate the necessary changes. I know that it is not money we can count on, but also it is something to consider. I also understand that part of the reason this project is taking center stage over the necessary renovations or building at the other 2 schools is because it is the lowest cost project in comparison. However, where is the money in the future going to come from to pay for those things? If we deplete the budget to pay for this, how long until we can work on those other projects? There are concerns, for example, at the high school of tar dripping through the ceiling. Some of that has been repaired, but it is still occurring. To me, this is a safety concern that should be addressed. Additionally, are the heating systems adequate at these older 2 schools as well as other age issues that are coming up? It seems that this is a lot of money to spend at this point in time with, as mentioned at last week's meeting, a possibility of other losses that would be a major loss to our students. Having to cut art and theater programs would be devastating to our students. These are important programs. Thank you for your consideration. Carrie Piper. This is, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name, Brittany Fair, F-E-H-E-R. I'm writing with regards to the topic of the CVSD kindergarten expansion plans. My husband and I are residents of Center Township with children at Todd Lane and the CV Middle School. I believe that our district's money would be better spent in repairing the CV Middle School and CV High School. These schools are in great need of renovations. This should be a priority as our children have to live in these buildings that are in great need of renovations. The middle and high school students spend a minimum of 35 hours in these outdated schools per week. It seems careless and reckless to spend the millions of dollars of taxpayers' money that are being proposed on expanding kindergarten. Perhaps using modular classrooms for expanding our kindergarten classrooms would be a more feasible option. I keep thinking about the old saying, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. Thank you for your time and consideration. Next one is from Michelle Cutlip. I understand there is a vote tonight as to proceed with discussions for all-day kindergarten or not. As a resident of Center Township for almost all of my 61 years, I believe it is time for the district to implement all-day kindergarten. My children went through the partial day kindergarten, and now 2 grandchildren have and 3 will in the future. My granddaughter spends more time in her 4-year preschool class than she will next year in kindergarten. If we want all our children to have the same advantages with early learning as other districts, I believe the change needs to be made. Please pass the all-day kindergarten for the future of our children, or delay the vote and put out a public notice so more parents and residents are able to comment on the issue. This is from Tricia Coble. I realize I am probably too late to have this submitted before the meeting this evening, but I wanted to pass along my thoughts on this abrupt proposal as a parent and taxpayer, as well as being an experienced teacher. While I do see the benefits of full-day kindergarten, CV should have recognized that years ago when Center Grange was built. Right now, you have a middle school that is crumbling, and kids will be going back to it soon with no air conditioning or proper ventilation. In addition, a district's high school should be the crown jewel that draws people to the district, but it is outdated. No one that is moving to the county would see either of these 2 buildings and think that it is the place to have their kids attend. These 2 buildings were scheduled to be next after Todd Lane's renovation and should not be pushed aside for a new pet project. Follow your original plan and get these 2 buildings current. Spending millions of dollars on the nicest building in the district is just a careless use of funds. This last one, there's an individual named Tracy, no last name, but I'll read it. I was under the impression that before TL construction started, the plan was to move to the middle school and then the high school. I believe that the middle school and high school should be the next projects the district looks at. They are older buildings that continue to need costly repairs. Center Grange is a new building with space issues. There are other options that could be used, like trailers. I also do not want to see programs cut in the upper grades to pay for construction at Center Grange. I currently have students in Center Grange, Todd Lane, and the high school, and will have a kindergartner in the fall. We'll do the live public. If there's any members of the public that wish to speak, if you want to approach the lectern.
Okay, if I take my mask off the phone.
Sure.
I'm nervous, so just give me a second here.
No reason to be nervous.
Okay. I talked to Dr. Perry, so if I just look at Dr. Perry, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My name is Jen Checketts. I'm the president of the Central Valley PTA. In doing that, we have started to do a little bit more advocating for our Central Valley students, so I thought it was important to be here. I was not here last week during the meeting. We, as a community, I got a lot of feedback that really no one knew that immense project that you guys were going to outline. And I just want to tell you first, that's a lot of work. I'm sure you guys have countless hours into going over the feasibility of all-day kindergarten. I myself have talked to Mrs. Kasanovich for hours about it. I do believe all-day kindergarten has to happen. I have notes, I'm sorry. This study, whenever you guys did your presentation, I just feel like there's still a lot of questions that need answered. But I do want to thank you guys for opening this to the public. I know you guys just want to vote on it. And thank you for the couple of people that came. I've been posting and trying to get people to care. My one thing is that I've had several conversations over the last 2 days, more specifically about this project, about what people think. And one conversation that sticks out to me the most, though, had nothing to do with this project. It's something else that's going on in the district, and it's this pandemic. Right now, our kids are struggling, and it has nothing to do with all-day kindergarten. And I know whenever I listened to the whole 3.5 hours, and I've heard mentions of what if something happens, what if something else happens, and we put all our eggs in this kindergarten basket. And I don't think that anyone really had an answer on what if we need money for something else. And I just think that if we're looking to spend money, we need something to help our kids now get through this because they're having a hard time. I myself have reached out to, we just have our K through 5. And I have talked to both principals, the guidance counselors, on what we can do for the mental health of our community, of our kids. And everyone is kind of at a loss because obviously they've never been through a pandemic either. And neither have our kids. My two boys, I have two boys, first and fourth. And they were fine up until this last closure. And they're hurting, and our teachers are hurting, and the community is hurting. And I don't know if you guys will answer questions, but I guess one question I have is just like, why now? Why are we talking about this now when there's so many other things that need discussed? And I think that reverberates through the community, and I'm sorry that more people aren't here to say that, but they feel it. And they feel like you guys as a board and moving on this now don't care. And I believe in my heart, I know you guys don't know me. I hope to be able to come to more meetings and get to know you guys after this pandemic is over. But I cannot walk away thinking that you guys don't care. You guys are elected officials. You don't get paid a penny. And I heard the passion when you guys talked last week. And everyone truly appreciated it, but it's now the time. On to something else. All day, in my heart, Carla and I have talked all day kindergarten. I am a huge advocate for all day kindergarten. And it's not because I don't think our kids are behind. I had two kids who went through the system. One did have a very hard time, and it has nothing to do with education. He's a straight A student now. But first grade was hard. It took him probably to the halfway through the school year before he could get into A, but these kids are smart. We have some of the best kindergarten teachers, I think, in the county. And I know it's hard for them, but everyone's pretty resilient here. And I just think that there's more options than this construction project. And I know you guys put a lot in 5 years ago when the Todd Lane project came to be. Center Grange, as far as I know, I wasn't as involved in the district back then, but from what I've been told, the plan was always Todd Lane, middle school, high school. Center Grange doesn't need anything. Now, all of a sudden, you guys are telling the public, now this is what we have to do, Center Grange. And everyone's like, wait a minute, what happened, And all of a sudden, we're putting everything into that. And I've had people message me. I have not been in the middle school or the high school a lot, but I've had people message me in this past week. There's buckets in the hallways. There's tar leaking from the gym at the high school. And that's just what people tell me. I don't know, there's always an in-between. But is that the conditions we want our older kids learning in? I feel like what was missing from that study was how the middle school and high school principals felt about it. I did hear someone mention, are the walls falling down? And the principals were like, well, no, but are the kids and the teachers in the best conditions in those schools to get the most out of their education too? And I feel like that should have been a part of that study, and it was missing.
Ms. Belcastro, may I make a comment?
Mr. Dreskowski.
So I just want to make sure I clarify a couple of things. Number one, thank you for your involvement in the school district. I just want to kind of maybe explain a couple of things to clarify.
Oh, yeah.
What was done was a feasibility study.
Right.
It was a study to see, is it feasible for all-day kindergarten? And then moving into a financial study for, can we afford it? And then that's why I know Mr. Moad and everything brought in the original plan for where we are. So what was done was a study to bring the information to the board, to the public on findings based off of concerns from the public, asking questions. Why do we not have all-day kindergarten? Why are kids going to Baden Academy? So what was brought was this portion of a study. And then that's why the rest of the feasibility study from the original plan was brought out also. So it could be compared, that this is the original plan. This is something that we are getting questioned about. Is this possible? Can we do this? So the board felt the need to put a committee together to focus on that. And then the finance committee met and brought it. So all that was done was a study. And then it's being brought now to the board to see if we are going to move forward with it. So everything was encompassed in that, and that's what is going to be voted on.
So if you guys vote to move on all-day kindergarten tonight, what does that say? I guess, is that definitively we are moving forward? I mean, the timeline was already set on the construction, or is it just, yes, we're gonna move forward and ask more questions, let the public have more input and move from there?
I don't know if I could answer that as being one member of this board.
I defer to the committee what their thoughts are.
You want to answer? You want me to answer?
Here, what you said.
Let me just say this, Ms. Checkett. First of all, this has been bantered since 2016, I believe. Okay, if I'm a half a year off or whatever, please accept my apology. But the board instructed us, the committee, to go out and do a study for all-day kindergarten. We spent the last 18 months meeting religiously with architects, teachers, special ed teachers, etc., going over what is needed to put this together. At some point, we have to go ahead and vote on it. We just can't continue at this point. I mean, it's either yes or no. But the fact of the matter is, I want to share something with you. There wasn't one person here last week. Secondly, when we spent probably $18 million on Todd Lane and we wanted to be transparent as a group, okay? You know how many people showed up? 4, okay? I mean, how much more can we educate the people? We've done our due diligence about being transparent.
And I understand what you're saying, and I have complete respect for the work that you guys put into it. I know the work that we put into things with our PTA, and a lot of things don't happen and they don't work out. I am not accusing anyone on this board of not doing their due diligence or not trying to be transparent. But on that note, I will say that, do you guys honestly feel like you did everything to educate the public right now? I mean, I know it was posted on the district website. We also have a district Facebook page. We have a district call system that could have been used. Would people have come? I don't know. I knew there was a meeting last week. I had both of my kids. I'm sure you guys didn't want my kids running around the auditorium. I actually listened to the meetings, or my secretary listens and records all the school board meetings. We were, and I know I went back and checked your minutes from the November meeting.
I was going to say, the November meeting,
I
you
did
did
check the
say it.
minutes, but I listened to that November meeting and I know what the minutes reflect, but no one remembers it specifically being mentioned. And it could be just in our error. I'm definitely not accusing. We have kids running around while we're listening and everything too. But the general public was not aware that this was a due vote done.
Well, it was stated, I read the statement in November saying that we were going to be having this meeting in January. In December, I stated it again that the January 13th meeting was going to have the presentation for the public and that we would be voting on it on January 21st.
I can only tell you the feedback I'm getting from the community. I'm definitely not going to accuse anyone of lying or trying to move through without people. I'm just giving you my opinion. I feel like it could have been put out. I had someone mention to me that like fly mailers went out when the Todd Lane project went through, that everyone in the community knew. It breaks my heart that people aren't involved in the district. I love being involved in the district and I love knowing what's going to happen, but I can't make people care. All I can do is hope that you guys care. And all I'm asking is, do we have to vote now? I don't want to shut the door on all-day kindergarten. I think it's very important, but does it have to happen now?
Just a couple things. We're always looking for suggestions on better ways to communicate with the public. It's difficult.
And right
We
now
get
it's very
frustrated at
hard.
times, honestly, because we'd love to see an auditorium full of people giving their opinion because we're elected by the voters in the community. So we want to know what people's opinions are, not after we made a decision,
Yeah.
but while we're in the process. And we try to do those things. You know, we've had a lot of different committees, steering committees and things where we've gotten more of the public involved. So you as a PTA president, we'd love to have more input on how we can get more people.
Well, I'd be more than happy to help you spread information. There, I think that I have every sports organization in center, clubs and stuff, because right now I don't begrudge you. It's impossible to get information out right now.
Yeah, it's,
And there's always going to be a dozen people, just the little things we do. Like I never knew. And I know that happens for sure. And the pandemic doesn't help that. And I guess that's why my main question is like, does this have to be cited? Is there somewhat, I just feel like there's something else, some way that everyone can be a little bit happier without having the Taj Mahal of elementary schools and then the middle schools and high schools being forgotten about.
just so you know, everyone on this board, back to 2015, when we did this, is for all-day kindergarten. It was part of the plans.
Yeah.
It was originally the last part of the plan, but everyone is for it and we all see the benefits of it. But we're split right now as a board to what we believe the next plan of action
I mean,
is.
is that an option for you guys? And I know, I mean, the community wants a date. Tell me what year when my kid can go to all-day kindergarten. No, I don't have any more little kids, but people want to know. I'd like to know. The PTA wants to know, you know what I mean? But can we look forward to that date and look for other options besides an $11 million project? Can we just wait a month or two and see? And I'd be more than happy to try to get people in this auditorium for you guys.
I mean, that's up to the committee. The committee was the one that put this on the agenda for tonight to vote. So that's up to the committee. They forwarded a motion to vote on this project tonight and it was seconded. So it's on the agenda. So
I
that's
do
up to the
think,
committee.
like, I'm just asking you guys, I think it would be a good, just for the community to see that you are willing. And I will try to get that out to the community that you are. I've been very appreciative that you guys just opened this meeting up. You didn't have to. So I guess that's all I have to say. I hope you'll consider it, please. And anything you guys need, we're here for you guys too, okay?
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Jen.
The board can vote to table a motion. I'd be nervous about the board may vote to table a motion at a later date.
He said the board.
So when it comes up, good evening, to raise the hand. For the minutes, my name is Daniel Camp. I reside at 122 Shadow Creek Drive in Napa.
No.
I'm here to voice my opposition to the issuance of any new additional debt. I'm here to concern taxpayer of the Central Valley School District and in my capacity as chairman of the Beaver County Board of Commissioners. Something I'm very familiar with is the ongoing development here in Center Township and the reassessment. I first want to recognize to the entire board, you all have a tough and thankless job, as you mentioned earlier, and most of the time thankless. Balancing the district's budget, including the current $45 million in debt we already carry. Maintaining a comprehensive budget to educate our kids in our district. And making Central Valley School District as competitive as possible against all the other districts in Beaver County, Western Pennsylvania, and across the Commonwealth. All during a pandemic, as we mentioned. Even though, as everyone in this room fully supports all-day kindergarten, I do as well. Having two young children who haven't been in the district yet, but we chose to build a new house here a few years back. What I must ask is if this is the right time to be borrowing more money to put this into place. As last week, your business manager continued to tell you that you only have $30,000 in your capital reserve fund. To make matters worse, there were board members, specifically Mr. Ambrose, seems to rely on fabricated facts pertaining to the core board reassessment and possibly blaming a scapegoat. That scapegoat is myself and the Board of Commissioners. A Board of Commissioners, I mind you, 2 of the 3 members are residents of Center Township Commissioner Amadeo and myself. Give away the background. Beaver County was forced to conduct a reassessment by the Beaver County Court of Common Pleas and developer Charles Betters. We tirelessly fought that reassessment for 3 years, appealed it all the way to the PA Supreme Court, and it was denied. Furthermore, what I'm really here for is I want to correct a statement that was made by Mr. Ambrose. Quote, "You don't believe or think that Beaver County would spend $8 million for a reassessment where they're going to lose money?" Give it a board member.
Excuse me, Madam President. I take exception to the fact that this speaker is calling out a board member.
I'm quoting the.
I'm taking exception to the fact that you're calling out a board member.
Dennis, let's hold off.
I was gonna say-
Number one, I'm a big boy, and I'll get my chance
Absolutely.
to rebut Mr. Camp, okay? About the refabrication and whatever, but go ahead, continue.
I'll quote him again, sir, Mr. Bloom. Quote, "You don't believe or think Beaver County will spend $8 million on a reassessment where we're going to lose money. Quote, this is going to put more revenue into our tax dollars here at the Central Valley School District." It's outrageous and incredibly inaccurate statement. Mr. Malley told you last week. I'll remind you again, there is specific language in the reassessment law that contains an anti-windfall provision so that tax revenue in your district will remain revenue neutral.
Very well.
To explain that for those who are not familiar with this, and who might be listening, because I know the board is. Central Valley collects roughly $18.9 million and some change of tax revenue at a millage rate of 61.9 mils. That means they collect $305,000 roughly per mill. Revenue neutral. That means unless there's no new development in Central Valley School District, which we know there will be, that's not questioned, we all know that. They will collect the same amount this year and moving forward. If no new properties are added, which we believe there will be properties, we all believe that. The same $18 million will be getting tax revenue. But the difference is 1 mil will not equal 305,000 anymore. It will equal more. By law, the school board can raise revenue in that first tax bill of 2023, 2024. But the way they're going to do that is raise taxes. Is that what this board is going to recommend tonight by approving this project? Raising taxes? Again, reassessment can't be used to make money or jack up revenue. But this board can take advantage of that by raising the tax dollars of the Central Valley School District residents. While some have taken an extremely narrow approach to the reassessment issue and put large emphasis on discussion about reassessment's potential impact of the 230 potential new homes that may be built in the future, what are we going to do now? Roll the dice and borrow more money as if we're at the craps table? If we lose, what do we do? They'll vote to raise the taxes. Not to mention in your discussion, we completely ignored the positive facts of the thousands and thousands of existing homes that serve to benefit, because there will be benefits from this. For the first reassessment in the last 39 years. For instance, the owners of the Beaver Valley Mall property for years have benefited from our tax structure here in Beaver County. But all these commercial developments will be reassessed. And they will be contributing a more equitable profit to the tax revenue. Just to recap, a reassessment does not increase Central Valley's revenue. Because of the anti-windfall provision, when the reassessment increases the property values of the commercial and residential properties in the district, it will be offset by a millage rate. Your millage rate will drop. Meaning as the tax rate goes down, the assessed values go up. To commit to a project of this amount without having a guaranteed source of revenue, all we are guaranteeing to is a potential future tax increase for those residents of the Central Valley School District. and all of you may know this, but some of you had reasons to make statements of the contrary. Again, I'm going to ask simply tonight, is this what we are recommending with no source of revenue coming in? A tax increase. Moving forward, I hope that some misleading statements will stop and we will inform our board members of the truth. As the Board of Commissioners do everything we can in our means not to raise taxes, I'm sure this board will do the same. And after reading 2C on the agenda here tonight, I'm going to read it. To authorize the district superintendent to proceed with implementation of all-day kindergarten program with intended start date beginning of the 23-24 school year. So I ask, and I hope whenever there's a first and second to this, because we know there will be, you guys can deliberate to the public again on how we are going to fund this project. And with this motion, is this motioning to borrow new money and hire new teachers and start the construction, or is this just moving forward with the administration implementing stuff forward? Thank you.
Would you object to me talking to you?
I'm sorry?
Will you hear me out regarding?
Absolutely. No,
Thank you. First of all, thank you for your public service in Beaver County. And I know you have the interest in your best heart. The word fabricate is a little off base. However, when I made the statement, I said, you guys aren't going to spend $8 million, okay, to lose money. And I understand the concept of revenue equalization, revenue neutral, I'm sorry. However, I said, I believe that there's going to be some monies to be made on the reassessment, particularly in the area of new construction. Okay, we just didn't sit here last week and throw figures out. We didn't just say it off the cuff. We went down to your office down in the county, okay? And I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. One of your people told us, you guys can use the 5% rule when you have a reassessment for new construction. And I'm going to ask Dr. Perry, as well as Mr. Maley, to back me up and say, that's what was told to us.
That is accurate.
I'm sorry, what is the 5% rule?
When we went to the reassessment office and I'm not.
I mean, I know the answer.
We.
You guys know the answer.
Sure. So when we went down there, spoke to folks in the reassessment office and we're left with the impression that when the reassessment was done, that the millage could be set where there potentially could be an increase to 5 to 10% in
First year.
in that first year.
So that means the 5% rule means it's 10% for local government and county government. The 5% means that you could only raise your taxes in the first year 5% of what your tax revenue is. So if your tax revenue is 18.9 million, you could raise your taxes $900,000 that first year. But that is a tax increase. That is not raising the revenue of any property in Central Valley School District. That's a tax increase.
Okay.
Revenue neutral is whatever the assessed value of the properties in 2022, 2023 school year tax bill means. That's what they will be in 23, 24.
Yeah.
With your millage rate lowered, which allows you to start taxing the residents again. I understand. I live this every day. I know that you have teacher unions. I know you have other unions. I deal with 9 different unions a day. So if we're going to borrow money, as Mr. Malley showed last week, you will be operating in the red again and start taking from your reserve fund that you guys worked so hard to build. I understand that. I did it. I lived it every day. When I took office in 2016, we were $13 million in the hole. But what we did was we raised taxes because we had to, but we weren't building new structures. We had auditors, we had professionals, just like you guys did, with your auditors tell you, don't spend money. I think Mr. Miller did a great job earlier today showing the facts. The facts are that right now, no data shows that our students in Central Valley School District are left behind. But I support all-day kindergarten. But we got to find other ways to do it. We have to start thinking outside the box. We can't have, as you mentioned earlier, pet projects. I know this has been discussed for many years, but we have 4 facilities here in Central Valley. Are we going to start thinking, or in this study, I didn't read the whole thing. Are we thinking about families who aren't going to move into Central Valley because our taxes are high and they're going to go to these other school districts? How many students move into Central Valley School District that don't have kindergarten age kids because they're coming here for our other grades? I think if we're going to borrow money, I'm okay with borrowing money. Invest it in the right areas. The middle school, the high school. You guys did a wonderful job at Todd Lane. It's being spotlighted across the Commonwealth. I see newspaper articles about it. But we have to make sure our priorities are straight. And the priorities don't seem right now to spend money on a school that's brand new for a project that probably won't bring all 30 or all 27 students back from Baden Charter Academy. What we need to do as a board of directors, a board of commissioners, because I support it, I'm sure some of my other colleagues do, they're retired teachers, we need to be lobbying the state and say, why are we spending so much money to send our students to another school? Whether it's PA Cyber, Bader, or Chardon, there has to be a new formula. That's the way you fix the problem. I'm just not here because I don't want to see no new debt because it will take us forever. And I want to see people move into our district, move into our county because of our lower taxes. And I believe that we have it. And I believe everyone on this board will have the foresight to make those right decisions. But I hope tonight, whenever there's a first and second, you open deliberation between the 9 board members, you guys discuss, how are you going to pay for this project? Because you are ultimately taking a vote, an open-ended vote. That's like me giving you my checkbook and saying, go out to dinner and buy the restaurant dinner. I don't know how much it's going to cost. You guys know how much the project's going to cost. How are we going to pay for it?
Well, apparently you didn't listen to the 3 hours and 33 minutes.
I did twice, sir.
Okay.
So I take, I don't need comments from you like that.
I don't need you to say to me that I fabricated something.
You did, sir.
No, I didn't.
I read your quotes word for word.
I said that.
And they were completely wrong. You are not going to gain any new tax revenue from reassessment.
Okay.
So is that a fabricated quote or not?
I'm going by what your office told me. Okay? Simple as that. Out of respect, you send this board an email.
Asking them to open it up to the public.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
You send that, okay?
I don't think.
I wanted to have a discussion with you. I call you and text you. Mr. Ross calls you.
That's not.
You can't take the time. You send us an email. You send us an email and you can't even pick up the phone. That's respect.
Ms. Belcastro, thank you very much for responding to my email.
Thank you.
I was not questioning any transparency. I talked to Dr. Perry about that, but I thought, as you said, it is important for people to be here. I don't think it would be fair to your solicitor to read my statement that I wanted to read onto the record. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anybody else coming up? I'd like to respond. If no one else is coming, is anybody else coming up?
People in the public.
Anyone else in the
Public want to make
Public?
comments?
I'm not going to take up a lot of your time. For the record, my name is Rachel Schwer. I live at 123 York Way in Monaco. I have children at both Center Grange and Todd Lane. I'm all for kindergarten. I think that's been pretty much established from everybody else speaking. I'm just going to echo what Jen said. I read the agendas. I've listened to your school board meetings. I'm not always able to attend, with my children and especially with what's going on, as Jen mentioned, with the pandemic. But when I read that, I had no idea that there was going to be a 3.5-hour long meeting with all of this information that was presented, which I really appreciate the board and all of the work that you did to go into that. I feel like the public kind of missed that something of this magnitude was going to be presented. And I would just ask that the board would take some time, hit the pause button a little bit and let the rest of us kind of catch up with all of that work that you did. It was a lot to digest. I listened to all of it. I read the presentation and I still kind of got a little lost in all of the numbers. I know it's not my job to make those decisions or get into the weeds with it, but I think that if the community had a little bit more time to digest all of the work that you did, that we would appreciate that as a community before you went ahead and voted on something of this magnitude. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further,
I'm going to comment.
Public comment?
If anybody's not coming up. I'd like to address some of the comments that were made tonight, okay? I had a lengthy, if you listen to that 3.5 hours, I might have had an hour of that, okay? The decisions I want to make tonight on all day, every day kindergarten, it just isn't like a matter of, okay, I thought about this last month. I think we ought to do this, okay? No, this has been years. I mean, I have a history of education behind me. And this is 20 years ago. I started this at a school district that I worked at. Whenever No Child Left Behind came, when Bush was in power, we did research back then, okay? Because we were trying to figure out how we're going to make our school district better and how we're going to better prepare our children for the next level and to graduate. So at that time, I had 2 elementary buildings. So I met with my kindergarten, first, second grade at one building. We discussed, did the same thing at the other building. And the results came out the same. In order to move our district forward and to better prepare our children for the next level was to have all day, every day. At that time, everybody, 20 years ago, everybody's doing some form of kindergarten, half day, all day, one day, every other day. We brought a lady in from Pitt, from University of Pittsburgh. That's what she did. That was all she did, was study about if all day, every day kindergarten was the route to go. At that time, I'm talking 20 years ago now, approximately, she said, that is the future. That in order to prepare your kids, not only, and we keep talking about academically, we're talking about social and emotional for a lot of kids. And in our districts, not only Central Valley, I mean, we didn't write the book on education. These other districts are doing a great job also. You know what I mean? You take care of your gifted kids, they're going to make it if they don't go to kindergarten. Your lower kids, your support kids, they have paraprofessionals, they have a learning support teacher, they have the regular classroom teacher. The kids I'm concerned are your average kids. We forget about the average kids because the bright kids are going to go. Don't even have to go to kindergarten. I'm sure there's people on this board that maybe didn't even go. I'm worried about those kids too. In order to address them, and if you listen to my presentation, I have it right here too. I have statistics, and I was always told, especially by this board at one time, some administrators say, data, 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 data is what drives whatever, okay? Well, all the research that I did and the people on this committee, all the data, very few of it goes the opposite and saying you don't need it. You need it for a lot of reasons. If you have your building principal, your kindergarten teacher, your first grade teacher telling you, as Mr. Camp said, he lives it every day. He lives his job. They live their job. Ms. Belcastro, she lived that job, okay? She'll tell you herself, she has said it. It's needed. It's needed. All the statistics that I'm telling you, and again, I'm not going to go through all of it. Obviously, you want to go through that. It's telling you that all day kindergarten is the way to go. I also mentioned last week, if by some chance, and because of this epidemic, Governor Wolf is kind of like tied up with it, as everybody is, okay? But last March, he was still forcing Pennsylvania school districts to go full time. mandatory. Now, if that happens, what are we going to do? If he forces that, and it does happen, okay? The other thing, Mr. Camp mentioned about taxes. Hey, listen, I'm talking as a taxpayer now, and this board knows how I feel about this. I'm upset as a taxpayer. Forget about being on the board. As a taxpayer, this district is sending over to Baden Academy. It started 5 years ago, if you remember the conversation I had. Started at $300,000, $350,000, I think, at the time, 5 years ago. It is going to be next year $500,000. Then it goes up every year. When do we stop the bleeding? It hits $1 million, $1.5 million. We had, in this district, we had a lot of kids going to PA Cyber, okay? I can't remember what the big number was at that time before we started our cyber school, our in-school cyber school, okay? We said, how are we going to address this? How are we going to keep those kids here? How are we going to keep that money here? So what we did, we instituted, as a lot of districts were doing at the time, was your own cyber school. Kept quite a few kids back, all right? We kept them here. So we stayed the district money, and we educated our kids in this district, all right? That's pretty much where we are right now with Baden Academy. We're sending over there, and I explained it last week, and I'll just touch on it again. I mean, I hate to bore you with it, but I thank you all for coming out tonight, and I thank the response from the public community. It's really nice to hear opinions, and it makes you think. But if we get our kids starting, I talked with the lady that was the director over there. I didn't look up our numbers here, and I guessed that, and I called over there. I know her personally. She's not there anymore, and I think Mr. Ambrose can support me on this also. We have 34 kids over there, all right? She tells me, she said it. I didn't make it up. Yeah, he didn't make it up. She said, it all starts with kindergarten. People want all-day kindergarten from your district. We may have maybe 20 kids go over there. That's a lottery system. They cut it down to taking 12. When they get there, she says this. I'm not saying it. I'm not making this up. She said they like it here, they make friends, and they want to stay. 6th grade. Now, if it goes through what I'm hearing over there, they want a PA Cyber. They have more money than God. They want to buy or lease Quigley Catholic, and they want to get into a middle school there. So if that does happen, if our kids like it over there, and other kids, okay, they will continue to go there. So as a taxpayer, I'm upset with that. I don't want somebody else educating our children with their curriculum, with their teachers, and I don't want my money going over there. I want it to stay here. Getting back to what Mr. Camp said about raising taxes. Here's my thought on this. I might be too common sense, I don't know. You think about this. If we can stop our kids going over there, next year will be 500,000. It's not going to happen the first year. It won't happen the first year. The first year, if we have all-day kindergarten, it'll be X amount of dollars we'll save that year until we get those 6th graders back. The 500,000 that we're paying over, I'm gonna use that number now because that's the number it'll probably be next year.
Are we deliberating this now or in the meeting?
I'm trying to answer a question that came up about raising taxes.
I understand. I'm just saying, this is all about kindergarten, and I think it should be deliberated when it comes and gets second.
Well, it's fresh because, Mr. Camp just made a comment about raising taxes, and I totally agree with you. I don't want to see my taxes go up either, okay? I'm thinking about this board, this district, paying for that, Mr. Camp, by the money that we will save by not sending our kids, as we did when we sent the kids, when we stopped the kids going to, not all the kids, but a lot of the kids because our in-school cyber school. That is where I'm looking to save and pay for the bond. We're not paying for the bond out of the taxpayers' money raising taxes. It's the money that I'm thinking that we will save from sending those kids over there to Baden Academy. All right? I'm like you, I'm a taxpayer. I don't want to see my taxes go up, but I want to educate I have nothing. I have no children, no grandkids here. I want to do what's best for these kids in the community. That is my thinking. Now, it might be too simple. I don't know. I mean, to save that money to pay for the bond instead of raising taxes. All right?
That's a great theory, but as Mr. Malley said, and Dr. Perry said last week, you can't budget assumptions. You can't budget for stuff when you don't know if the revenue is going to come back or not. That's all I wanted to state today is if the housing market takes a boom and 230 houses don't develop in Center Township or Potter Township or Monaca, if those kids don't come back from Beta Charter, if we continue to send them there, you can't budget assumptions. You have to go off past year and fact.
I can only go by, again, with the director over at the time, which she said, the last school district that was going there before they had all day was Beaver. All right? Beaver was sending their kids for all day. No, they weren't sending, the parents were going there because they wanted all day. All right? Once they had all day offered at Beaver, they had no more kids going there for all day kindergarten. If they stayed, the tax dollars stayed there in Beaver. And I don't know what they did with the money, but that's the point I'm trying to make. And I have nothing else to go by other than what people tell me, as you do when you do your research and you do your data and so on and so on. Now maybe that's like I'm thinking pie in the sky. All right, I don't know, but I'm willing to chance. I'm willing to chance that and when your principal and other educators are telling you we need it, the kids need it, and we need the space. If you listened to last week, you on your stage, you have music, you have a gym class going on here, and you have cafeteria going on the other side. That's the newest building in the district. Is that smart? Then she says they can't have the programs that they would like to do.
Mr. Ross,
Can't utilize the gym.
Mr. Ross, can we kind of see if anyone else wants to say, and then when it comes up time for the vote, if somebody wants to say anything, we can do it then. Mrs. Chicketts, did you want to say?
I just wanted to thank you guys again. And I just want to reiterate, I know you guys have kind of said if you should table it or not. My reason for asking you guys to table is just, I don't want to close the door on anybody or anything. And I kind of see a vote. I don't want to yes, because I don't want to close the door on the middle school and the high school. I definitely don't want to no, because I don't want to close the door on all day kindergarten either. And I feel like if it is a no.
Can I clarify something for this individual? Hi, just to clarify something for you here. The vote tonight is to authorize Dr. Perry whether or not to move forward with the plan that's come up by the committee.
Yes.
Okay. So let's assume for this discussion that it's denied tonight, that the board decides, let's not move forward with this plan. At some point in the future, whether that is in a month or 2 months or a year, they can reconsider that decision. So I don't want anyone to think that a decision tonight is foreclosing forever the concept of all-day kindergarten in Central Valley. It just means right now, it's just like any other decision that the board makes. Maybe they were deciding to renovate the football field or something, and they decide 1 month not to, but then somebody changes their mind and they move forward. So a no vote tonight does not preclude that forever. The only thing that is happening if the board voted yes tonight would be to direct Dr. Perry to take certain steps to begin implementing that plan, obtaining financing through I believe a bond would need to be issued, seeking out additional staff members, directing Mrs. Kasanovich to start reworking her curriculum in that school to accommodate the all-day kindergarten program. And that's why it has done so early, because there's so many steps to take for that. And that's why I believe the target date, even if it was approved tonight, as we sit here in January of 2021, is 2 years, almost more than 2 years down the road. So just so everyone understands that that is what this vote is tonight.
Okay, that's
not
what I was asking before. That
Right.
answers it perfectly.
right. So just so I think that might clarify your concern.
Okay. Yes, well, thank you for your time. Thank you for all your hard work and what you guys do for the district. I mean, I think I let my opinion be known. Is it something we need to move on now? Let's get through this pandemic and get the kids in school and keep everyone healthy and happy. And then for sure, let's move forward and get this all. Maybe there's a happy compromise for everybody down the road. Thank you for
Thank
letting
you.
me speak.
Thank you very much.
Can we go ahead and get through the rest of the public comment that came?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to read off the public comments that came in through the spreadsheet. If there's anything that comes in after I start speaking, we'll hold those till the general comments at the end. There's been a significant time for folks to get their comments in. First comment is from Katie Kubis. As an educator and a parent whose child did not get to go to her first year of pre-K because of the pandemic, there are many reasons why full-time kindergarten is beneficial. First, researchers are now discovering that extended early education leads to an enhanced ability to read and cognitively perform more effectively. They will learn to read earlier and work on basic math skills sooner. It also allows for more social interaction and problem-solving skills. It can improve their social and emotional development and boost self-confidence and independence. Additionally, children will learn how to adapt to routines and engage in tasks for longer periods of time. I would love to see this implemented earlier than 2023 so that my daughter could attend and not have to go to another district, but it seems as that might not be feasible. This is a long time coming, and we have been selling our children short for a long time because of not providing this opportunity to them. Next comment is from Kristen Holmes. What a tough decision. With the current situation many kids are in today because of the pandemic, it is easy to say yes to full-day kindergarten. Why not? Well, it's simple. Yes, these kids are missing out on friendships and practicing social skills and maybe enhancing their reading skills or writing their names. But is that really what matters at age 5 and 6? Kids are rushed to be older, more mature than ever. Kids need playtime, structured or free. I do not want my kids attending school full day for 8 hours being rushed to grow up. If half the day would be guaranteed recess, great, sign them up. But I guarantee it will not be. The time will be filled in with reading practice, letter writing, math, maybe science and specials, but mostly more test-taking skills. Yes, I see it daily as I teach in a district where these kids spend their days with great teachers, playing with friends, but also being told to sit still, be quiet, stay in line, and fill in the bubble, not circle it. I see kids crying because of the pressure to do this. I am not ready to prepare my child for this pressure. It's not my envision of a fun and purposeful childhood. I want her to wear her princess dresses, laugh, giggle, tell make-believe stories, and be excited for school learning. An 8-hour day is way too long in person or on devices. So why rush them? Why take away what little fun and innocence they have? Once you are older, you cannot go back. Let them play with their hands, build towers, design crazy hats, color pictures. Sorry, it's cutting off here. And I think there was hang on one second, I'm sorry. Cotton balls, not force them to grow up. I get it. I teach and know school provides so much more than education. It is safety, food, and love. Many households are challenged with life's requirements and demands, making them ecstatic over having their kids safe and loved for 8 hours of the day while they are unable. I would be sad to send my child off to school knowing she will be forced to grow up. It happens eventually, but I want to savor her childhood just a little more. Looking to buy a house, we chose Central Valley because of this unique option for half-day kindergarten. Being unique is great and should be strongly considered to remain so. Thank you for your time. I'm excited to be sending our daughters to kindergarten in the near future. I just hope it will be a CV bus and not another outside location paid for by the district. As far as renovations go, renovate away. Create for the future. Don't skimp or you will regret it later. Build big spaces and extra spaces. Ask the teachers for input. It is them who will know best. Use their knowledge. What about a STEAM tech wing for future designers? I think number 4 is a repeat.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that was the same person. Okay. Number 5, I think, is
Yes, for the end.
to the end.
Correct.
Okay. Moving on to number 6, Laura Crawley. If the district moves forward with this project, where would it leave the other schools? It doesn't appear the funds would be available to upgrade any of the other buildings academically or physically. If a major component failed, would that put the district in financial distress? Looking at the feasibility study from 2015, it seems repairs will need to be made. How can we advance technology, STEM, and trade programs for our future graduates if there are no funds? How can we say we are improving our academics by adding full day, but then turning around and having to cut programs or increase class sizes? Tracy Bead. I was under the impression that before Todd Layton construction started, the plan was to move to the middle school and then the high school. I believe that the middle school and high school should be the next projects the district looks at. They are older buildings that continue to need costly repairs. Center Grange is a newer building with space issues. Other options should be looked at. I also do not want to see programs cut in the upper grades to pay for construction at Center Grange. I currently have students in Center Grange, Todd Layton, and the high school, and will have a kindergartner in the fall. Dana Bauer.
At the end.
I am aware that full-day kindergarten is being discussed, and a lot of talk and information found in the presentation from the last meeting centers around the financial implications of such a decision. I feel as though prolonging full-day kindergarten does a disservice to the developmental needs of the children, not just academically, but emotionally and socially too. Because half-day kindergarten is currently offered, parents are sometimes forced to send their children to alternate placements. When children all return to first grade, it takes teachers the entire year to get children the supports they need. These children are behind children in neighboring districts. In other districts, children get these supports in kindergarten and are on the right track by first grade. In addition, children in kindergarten in neighboring districts are getting more academic support and much more rigorous academic instruction. Our children are behind. If full-day kindergarten is implemented, how does the district plan on bridging these gaps? Does the board look outside of the county? Allegheny County districts are 20 minutes away and we are far behind. I teach in one of these districts. Dana Bauer, is there a reason the district compares our education to only schools in the county? How about Moon, West Allegheny, Montour? Leslie Freshcorn, how do you plan to pay for this renovation addition? A tax increase? If that is your answer, I wonder how you think people that can barely afford to feed their families can afford more taxes. The school is giving out breakfast and lunches for children, and the food pantry has our community lined up and sitting in the Lowe's parking lot for free food. How can you justify spending this kind of money on Center Grange, knowing that the other buildings are in need of so much work and updates? Basically not worrying about the education that the current middle school and high school students are getting to provide a better education for incoming kindergarten students. Our current kids deserve a chance at excelling, and we have not been giving that to them. The middle and high school students should have every opportunity that we can provide them to get caught up with surrounding districts, not get left behind, pushed further behind because we are concentrating on future students. Kristen Milinovich, thank you for the information and the detailed explanations. My question is whether or not the older school buildings that were acquired with the Monaca merger have been considered for moving grade levels. Brandy Patterson, if we proceed with the plans for all-day kindergarten, will that push any plans or exploration for the middle school updates or renovations? Leslie Freshcorn, I could swear that I only saw 10 to 25 people were going to be admitted at the meeting. I personally assumed that there would be that many there, so I did not attend. Brandy Patterson, what is so pressing on this full-day kindergarten initiative? For this is the state of our other schools that clearly need attention.
We're still at 14.
I know, I'm getting. Dana Bauer, was there a Zoom link on the district's website for the meeting last week? There was a pandemic going on. I looked and didn't see a link, nor did I see it on the agenda last week. Also, why was the presentation for the study and information that there was a committee or updates on the committee that was meeting for the past 18 months on the website? I haven't seen one thing. As a taxpayer, this upsets me. Brandy Patterson, why is the full day kindergarten plan moved up to the top of the list for half of the school board? Lisa Mitchell, I am for all day kindergarten, but wonder if right now is really the best time to take on a project of that magnitude. I have children in all 4 of the schools here in Central Valley School District and know how bad the middle school and high school need to be updated and taken care of. I believe the focus should be there first and then move on to expanding the primary school. My kids come home with stories of tar leaking from the roof, buckets throughout the school to catch whatever is leaking at that time of the year, and kids in their classes being too hot to focus on their work due to hot temperatures in the summer and fall, just to name a few. I appreciate your efforts to expand into all-day kindergarten, but would love to see a priority be made on the middle and high schools first. Thank you. Debbie Pansis, please do not raise my school tax again. It's been raised twice in the last few years. The amount you want to spend on all-day kindergarten is very high. Robin Smith, I agree with all-day kindergarten in the future. My concern is the middle school and high school. Those 2 schools are in need of major repairs. Please consider updating those schools first. And the last comment, Michelle Wackenheimer, I like the option of full-time daycare. However, it seems that other schools other than Center need more tending to, and if the entire budget is spent at Center Grange, it doesn't seem that would happen. What about adding full-time kindergarten as an option and not mandatory? Offering a couple full-time and a couple half-days so parents can choose. This way, potentially less funds could be spent at Center Grange. Ultimately, I'm not in favor of spending all funds available on one specific area when it seems that there are many other schools in dire need of updates. Can we have a little here and a little there? any other comments will be, we have a couple that will be held for the general comment period, and anything that comes in will be discussed there.
So we're going to proceed on.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we're going to proceed on with the rest of the meeting here. Minutes to approve the voting session minutes from November 19th, 2020. That is found on attachment A. To approve the voting session meetings from December 3rd, 2020, which is on attachment B.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Zaritsky,
Mr. Zaritsky, who seconded?
seconded by Mr. Bloom.
Bloom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Can you please pause for about 3 to 5 seconds after each vote because there's a little delay with Colleen,
Colleen,
who's online.
well, they're jumping ahead.
Colleen, you okay?
I'm good. Yes, thank you. It just needs a minute because after you're done speaking, if someone speaks, I don't get their whole thing.
Okay.
Mr. King, Treasurer's Report.
Following bills and reports submitted for approval. A, pay bills. Number one, confirm the December 2020 general fund payments in the amount of $3,185,671.36. Attachment C. Number two, confirm the December 2020 cafeteria fund payments in the amount of $40,960.28. Attachment D. B, report to approve the November 2020 Berkheimer report. Attachment E. Approve the December 2020 Berkheimer report. Attachment F. I'll make that motion.
Second. So you have a motion by Mr. King
They're going too quick for me.
and second by, was that Mr. Moad?
Mr. Moad,
Mr. Moad, thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We don't have to think about that one.
Yeah,
right?
that's a
Okay.
misprint. We already handled that public comments on agenda items. We'll go to the next.
Okay, board policy, number one, to approve a second interim agreement with Roads Transit regarding contracted school transportation through the end of 2020, 2021 school year or until normal operations resume. Number two, to approve the execution of a release and assignment agreement with Selective Insurance Company of America. Discussion? Can I have a motion on items 1 and 2?
Dr. Eunice, motion. Need a second.
Mr. Ambrose, second.
Mr. Ambrose, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. O'Neill,
Negotiations, we have nothing at this time.
and that leaves Mr. Ross, Education.
Number one, to approve, confirm the release time, staff development requests. It's listed as the conference and location, the individual going, and the date. Two, to approve an agreement with Sunbelt Staffing to provide the district with a speech language pathologist from January 11th to 2021 through June 4th, 2021 at a rate of $71 per hour. The district will be able to access bill for the partial reimbursement of the services, provided services. Three, to authorize the district superintendent to proceed with the implementation of all-day kindergarten program with an intended start date at the beginning of 2023, 2024 school year.
So move.
We break that
I'm
up into approving 1 and 2 and 3 separate, please.
Right now, you have a motion from Mr. Bloom. Do we have a second?
Second by Mr. Zaritsky.
No,
I thought Mr. Zaritsky.
asked if we could break it and approve and make a motion on items 1 and 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Doesn't matter
I
how.
have a motion for 1 and 2.
So moved.
Motion on 1 and 2.
I second that.
So who was first, Mr. Bloom on that, okay, or who?
I second the 1 and 2.
George was first. George was the first to motion it.
All in favor on items 1 and 2?
Aye.
Opposed?
Second, Mr. Moak.
Motion carries. All right, for item number 3,
Moved.
Second.
Bloom, Mr. Ross. You're going to take a roll call.
and we're going to do a roll call on,
Any discussion?
Discussion, I'm sorry. I
so
apologize.
sorry, discussion. Sorry. Oh, thank you. Mr. Zaritsky.
Yeah, I don't want to be long. Good evening. I want to thank the attendance tonight, people here, people online and everything else like that. And I would like to show my appreciation to both the committee members of the kindergarten and the finance committee that have brought all this information here so that we could have this discussion, that brought the public in, that sparked interest. It's all this information that they obtained that is why we're able to discuss this. So thank you for all your efforts on that. Second, after speaking with several board members and also hearing from the public, I don't think that there is anybody here that does not agree that there are benefits to all-day kindergarten and that are for it. I know I am. But which brings me to my final point, which was part of the feasibility study, which was finance. What this project will do at this particular time, and it was also based off the recommendation from the finance committee that put our district back into a concerning financial position. I don't want to see activities cut, personnel or anything else like that. I am in the boat right now that I am not supporting moving forward with this at this time. I support all-day kindergarten, but I could not financially vote in favor of this, of what it can do potentially to our district.
Can't we just?
I thank the board. I thank the research that went in. It was very educational, but I cannot support it.
Mr. O'Neill.
Likewise, I'd like to agree with George. I too, as a former educator, I see the benefits of all-day kindergarten. I can also see the financial detriments to it. And for me, projects a lot of times are like chicken soup. It may not do you any good, but it won't hurt. There are benefits to kindergarten, but I've seen studies where these young kids, we're discovering more and more problems with deficiencies, and we wind up with more kids in special ed, more kids with special needs, more costs and expenses for various other things. It's a possibility. It may not help some kids who are, especially if it's mandated. At any rate, at this point, this school district has undergone some severe financial hits. We've lost numerous appeals at the mall during for reassessment. So we're losing money, okay? We've had other financial setbacks to the point where at this point, in this school district, we have a budget that's approximately 90% fixed costs. It's instruction, it's pay the heating bills, it's keeping the lights on, it's your debt service, it's fit. We have only 10% wiggle room. If we would borrow more money at this point and reduce that to 5% wiggle room, I shudder to think what would happen if we had an emergency. And I'm not willing to take that chance. I'm not against all-day kindergarten. But at this point, I don't see how we can financially and responsibly make it happen. That's all I have to say about it.
Mr. Bloom.
Yes, as we spoke last week's meeting, since we're not going to be implementing the all-day kindergarten for the next school year or the following school year, those staffing costs actually move down the road 2 years before we will see the impact of the cost of the staffing and the benefits. Mr. Ambrose?
2.5 years.
Okay, I stand corrected.
It was September of 2023.
That was your so-called kick the can down the road. Yes. So I want to make that clear that, you know, those costs aren't immediate costs to us. Those costs won't be noticed until the staff is hired for that once we get things in place. it's going to take almost a year for the curriculum to be set and adjusted for the kindergarten program.
I'd like to hitchhike on that and say the 5-year progression where we put it up on a screen, even if it's 4 years, that kicks it out plus 2.5. In 6.5 years, if we don't have some type of home building here, whether we have a recession or something else, 6.5 years, could it be a little problem? Absolutely. But I think for the time being, we are going to have the construction. For example, we all got an email from a real estate agent saying these things don't come to fruition. This doesn't happen, whatever. I can go back in history in this township, starting with Chapel Valley, moving on to Woodhaven with 5 phases, Lakeview Farms across from Center Township. In the 5th phase, they're going to put a senior living complex back there, about 70 lots. All the infrastructure is in. This isn't guesswork or assumption. Roads, sewage, and water is back there. I go back, I look at Eben Estates, 140 homes, no problem. Cedar Ridge, no problem. Crescent Woods, no problem. Cottonwood, which is by Gateway, no problem. Brookhaven, gone. Everything is gone. East Schaefer Estates, put together in 2004, closed in 2007, 95 lots. Houses are 350,000 to over 500,000 there. Now, are we going to get all 231 in 2 years? No, I don't think so at all. But the point of it is, it's there. Shadow Creek, which is St. James, 35 homes. Riverview, overlooking the water down there behind Lowe's. I mean, for people to say this is a heck of an assumption, or that some of these things don't come to fruition, I challenge anybody here to say, we had a contractor put in a big development and it didn't sell, okay? I want them to prove to me that this isn't going to happen. And it's not going to happen in year 1, maybe not in year 2, but I think we got 6.5 years to play with. That's all I have to say.
Dr. Eunice?
I would agree that I don't think anyone here on the board does not want to see all-day kindergarten. I'm not an educator. I've been educated highly. I don't know that all-day kindergarten one way or another is going to help the children through. I'm sure it would, but I am on the finance committee. I did look at the numbers and we are heading in the black, doing better. But if we do all-day kindergarten, it's going to set us back. I think with all the capital improvements we need to do to keep up with the middle school and the high school, that this would be a very bad move to float a bond. And as the other board members have said, this is a 6-year thing that's going to be moving up. If we start the construction, we will have to start taking draws on our money and starting to pay interest on the loan. And those don't sit back. It's not when I don't believe it is when it is all totally dispersed. So there will be costs incurred. There will be manpower or superintendent and different people and juggling some things around. I just think at this particular moment that kindergarten should not be on the docket for now. I think it's a need we have, but I think we should stick to our plan with the middle school and the high school and do kindergarten. Thank you.
Mr. Moed?
I think I've made my position fairly clear. Our current fund balance is 2.3 million, a little less. No matter when the clock starts ticking on this project, it's going to have a negative $3.6 million impact on our fund balance. We have nothing in our capital reserve. Capital reserve, for those of you who don't know, is what you use for any capital projects. You're only allowed to keep so much in your fund balance. What we should have, what's recommended, is probably around 8 million in our fund balance, and then you put away to save, like any homeowner would do when you have a project. You start putting money away in your capital reserve to do these types of projects. We've been working toward that. We worked on a negative budget for a number of years for a number of reasons. Teasers increases, different things that came up that we worked on a negative. We worked very hard to reduce our expenses over the last few years so that we're operating in the black now to save money and put money away. If I'm wrong about this, then all I'm saying is let's delay this for a few years to see how much money we can save. And if all this money comes in, I'm not refuting with what Mr. Ambrose says. Maybe that money's coming in, but I'm not a maybe guy. I'm not a take a chance. I'm not a gambler guy with taxpayers' money. Now, when we did this study in 2015, we did Todd Lane first. It was one of the lower, it was the first priority, number one, but it was a lower ticket item. And at the time we said, we have all this development, everything that's coming in with Shell, we may get a windfall of money so that we can do these higher ticket items, the middle school and the high school. 5 years later, almost 5.5 years later, we haven't seen that money. We've seen a 1% growth because for every development we've had, like Mr. O'Neill said, we have lost money in tax reassessments, the tax appeals from some of the larger commercial properties in the district. So if I'm wrong about doing this, 3 years down the road, we're still going to build the building and we're going to have more money put away, more in our fund balance, and we'll be in a better position to do this. If I'm right about what I'm thinking, we're going to have our district in financial distress worse than anything I've seen. You know, there was a time when we had to increase our contributions to the teachers' retirement. That's the PESERS fund. And it was a major increase to every district across the state. And we put together a list. There was a spreadsheet and we color coded. We put everything on the list. Things we didn't want to put on the list, but if it was a program in this district, it was on the list. And we decided, we knew how much each of those things cost, and then we drew the line at where we were going to stop cuts. We cut secretary, staffing, different things, but we drew the line at programs. 2 years ago when we had this issue, we did the same type of thing, and we cut. We didn't hire a curriculum director. We cut professional development for the teachers. We cut 10% to every extracurricular budget. We cut 10% to every school budget, and that's supplies and things that the teachers are, you know, you can always say the teachers are going to figure out a way to do it. That's kind of the response that's always, oh, they'll figure a way. But we haven't restored any of that funding from those cuts 2 years ago. We're not going to be able to if we do this. And if we get to a point where I think where this could lead, we're looking at cutting things that have been great for our students. You know, you're looking at maybe we're not going to be able to build a middle school. So maybe we have to look at doing a high school and middle school combined, because that thought has continued throughout my time, my 12 years on the board. That has always been an idea. I don't want to see that middle school as its own entity go away. It's an award-winning program. We need better facilities and resources for it, but we can't let that go away. And I'm telling you, there were things on the list that we looked at. I didn't want to even discuss cutting, but we had to at least discuss them. So I'm just taking a more financial and fiscally conservative approach to say, let's put this off for a couple of years. The committee has done great work. I don't agree with all their findings, and I think some of it was based on not all data. Like, I think the data I brought in tonight refutes a lot of what was said last week about the statistics of how we're scoring and where the numbers are, because there's all districts that are having this issue. We can't solve the problem with charter schools. We have 38 students at Lincoln Park, but no one is suggesting that we build a new auditorium here. That's more than what we have at Baden Academy. Are we going to be able to pull all this back if we build a new auditorium and put all the money into our theater program? No, no one's suggesting that. And I don't think we should suggest that by having all-day kindergarten and investing almost $13 million in it, that we're going to get all those students back. It's not going to pay for itself, even with all those students coming back. So, I mean, that's, like I said, if I'm right, I think it could be devastating to this district, not just at the primary level, but at all levels of this district. If I'm wrong, which I hope I'm wrong, I hope all that stuff comes, because in 2 or 3 years, we're going to be in a position to do the things we want to do. And this board we always talk about, we have a good plan in place and we stick to it. That's why we've been successful. That's why we haven't had issues on this board. That's why we haven't gotten ourselves in trouble. We don't rely on pet projects or things, that just kind of knee jerk come up. We put good plans in place and we follow them. And I think that's what we should do now. Our original plan was not to do this now. Sorry if I was long-winded.
Anyone else? Paul?
Pauline, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Asking for a roll call vote.
Mr. Ambrose,
Yes.
Mr. Bloom,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes, upon the recommendation of the committee, I vote yes.
Mr. Moad,
No,
Mr. O'Neill,
No.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Dr. Eunice,
No.
Mr. Zaritsky,
No.
Ms. Belcastro,
Yes.
motion carries.
One. Mr. Moad, technology.
we have nothing on the agenda this week.
Mr. King, athletics.
Number one, to approve the following conditioning programs to run January 18th, 2021 through February 27th, 2021 at the rate of $10 per hour, up to 60 hours total in compliance with the district athletic health and safety plan. Hernandez softball, Bruce Herstein baseball, Tim Casey tennis, boys tennis, King track, Mark Lyons weightlifting. There's also an FYI. The committee is recommending to bring back the following sport head coaches for 21-22 school year. Boys and girls golf, Craig Morris. Boys soccer, Brad Humble. Girls tennis, Tim Casey. Football, Mark Lyons. Boys and girls cross country, Bill King. Girls volleyball, Candace Klumak. Girls soccer, William Pfeiffer. Make that motion.
Okay, Mr. King made the motion. Second. Mr. O'Neill. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Eunice, extracurricular.
We have nothing at this moment.
Mr. Zaritsky, building and grounds.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Bloom,
I'm
personnel.
sorry, Ms. Belcastro, I'm sorry, on the buildings and grounds, just a question. The flooding at the high school, the water main break at the high school and the flooding at the middle school?
So we had water main breaks in two schools, actually not physically the school. The middle school water main break was on Ella Street. That water worked its way into the middle school, and we did have damage on one of the floors in the middle school. As I mentioned last week, we had a restoration company come in and clean the water damage, took out drywall to make sure that there was no mold. The next part of that renovation, the next part of that will be the restoration of the work that was done at the middle school. We are back up and running, so to speak, in the middle school as we currently speak. In front of the high school here in the parking lot, there was a water break as well. That pipe, that's not the first time that pipe has broken. If you look at the parking lot when you go out, those of you who are here, if you look at the front on the left side, you'll see where it was, I think it was last year, maybe a year and a half ago, it had broken and leaking there. We found another leak, and it's to the right of that. That's all been fixed. None of that affected coming into the school. It did have an effect on water here in the school because the water had to be shut down because it took them Friday into a Monday in order to find the break and fix and repair the break. We actually went to an all virtual, well, currently we're all virtual everywhere, but our teaching staff teaches from the building in all of our buildings. When we had the water main break at the middle school, those teachers whose classrooms were affected by the water main break, they taught from home. And when we had the water main break here, because we had no running water in the district for anyone to use restrooms or things like that, we had the entire staff work from home and teach from home. And I don't know that anybody would even know the difference as far as the delivery of instruction goes. They were able to do everything from home as they would have done in the classroom here. So both have been repaired to this point, and that's kind of where we are.
Are they high enough expenses to claim on insurance?
So the insurance, we did file a claim with the, at the middle school, because the amount of damage was over our deductible. Once we've met our deductible, we'll look to the insurance with regards to here as well, whether or not it's covered.
What is the deductible?
50, I think our deductible is 50,000 if I'm not mistaken.
I think Kevin has it at 25.
It could be 25. I thought it was, I think that's
Pretty standard in those policies.
25 or 50. It might be 25.
25.
So that's most of our capital reserve.
Could have been.
No, the deductible will be.
Well, the deductible, yeah.
Okay.
Is what, 25,000?
That's our deductible, yes.
Just a hitchhike on the water authority. It seems in the last couple of weeks, there's been a significant amount of water breaks. And I don't know if it's the draw of Shell at some point that's created this. Obviously, Shell paid for the whole water renovation plan, but to have all these breaks, and I know it was in my neighborhood too, have all these breaks, and I don't think we've been below 32 degrees too often already.
Yeah, and I'm zero expertise on water main breaks. I can tell you that folks that were fixing the one out front said that pipe is very old, and it was actually laying right on the ground, no separation between the ground and the pipe.
Okay.
So I'm sure that that's an extremely old pipe would be my guess.
Any others? Mr. Bloom?
Okay, to approve the resignation of Teresa Irvin, paraprofessional, effective January 22nd, 2021. Number 2, to approve Pamela Scipione as the payroll clerk at a rate of $15 an hour in accordance with the CVSD agreement, effective December 16th, 2020, pending receipt, review, and acceptance of all clearances. Number 3, to approve a medical sabbatical for a high school teacher from January 25th, 2021 through June 4th, 2021. Number 4, to approve an FMLA leave for an elementary teacher from March 31st, 2021 through June 4th, 2021. If there's no additions, I so move.
Second.
Second,
Get with Mr. Zaritsky.
Zaritsky. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Ambrose.
Number 1, to approve the adoption of the preliminary general fund budget for the 2021-2022 school year, which includes revenues of $39,284,555 and expenditures of $38,842,510.
Motion,
So moved.
Mr. O'Neill, second. Mr. Bloom. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Perry?
Back to school plans, as was announced a couple of weeks ago, and as well as last board meeting, we are coming back to school on Monday for our youngest learners. Our secondary folks they have an Act 80 day that day, so those students aren't scheduled to be here anyway. But on Monday, our youngest students will be coming back. On Tuesday, our secondary students will be coming back. Our mitigation efforts that were in place prior to the shutdown are still in place. Everything's been revisited. Faculty's been, we had faculty meeting to make sure that our staff is ready for our students to come back. Met with all of our folks, our custodians, our cafeteria workers. I see Ms. Coles in the back. She met with all of our bus drivers to make sure that everybody is primed and ready to go as far as bringing our students back to school. I can tell you that in our elementary schools, they've been making signs to welcome back the kids. I know that our teachers are very excited to welcome back the kids. Certainly, there is some apprehension from some of our folks, with regards to the pandemic, and that's no different than there was apprehension before we started the school year. We did not shut down because we had mass issues here in the school district. We shut down because of the COVID numbers in the county. We shut down because the state of Pennsylvania, the Department of Ed, was very adamant that schools close down and do the best we can to do our part to help to stop the spread, so to speak. As many of you probably saw, the Department of Ed came out about a week and a half ago saying that we need to get the kids back in school, especially our youngest learners. And we're certainly going to do that. We do the best we can to keep kids separated 6 feet, all those things. As I said from day one, and I'll say it again, that's not going to be feasible 100% of the time to keep kids 6 feet apart. We'll do the best we can. We'll make sure that we continue to enforce mask wearing and things like that and hand washing and so on and so forth. Our hope is that some of our issues potentially go above and beyond the students. When you start losing staff members, and it's not because necessarily someone has COVID, you lose staff members because somebody has to be quarantined because of contact, those types of things. We'll continue to monitor those numbers as they come in. The district will continue to notify folks that need to be notified with regards to any kind of potential contact with COVID like we did from day one. I believe that we were very successful from the first day of school until Thanksgiving break when we had to shut down. And I anticipate that we'll be successful again. I just hope the community continues to be flexible and understand that, should things come up and we have to close down for whatever reason, that, we'll do the best we can to keep school open. I've said to multiple people today, yesterday, people that I've run into in our district, that, these school buildings are for kids, not for adults to be sitting in them without kids in them. So we're excited about the kids coming back. We did a lot of talking tonight about social emotional needs of kids with regards to kindergarten. We certainly have students in the whole community that has social emotional needs, intellectual needs that need to be back in these schools. They need to be embraced by the teachers that love them, by the support services that we have here in school. For some kids, we're the only meal they get. For some kids, we're the only hug they get. And we're going to do the best we can to be safe. Pray for everybody, pray for our teachers. Our teachers are frontline workers, just like doctors and nurses and so on and so forth. We got frontline workers that are here in the buildings, and it's not just our teachers, it's our secretaries, it's our bus drivers, it's our aides, it's our everybody. So, say a prayer for the Central Valley school community. I said last week, if you looked at our numbers online, we have 95, 96, 97% of our kids are logging on every day in all of our buildings while we're home synchronous for 6 weeks. That is an unbelievable testament to this school community and the value that folks place on education. I believe tonight was a great example of the value that our school community puts on education. I believe that this board and the passion that you all heard for the past 2 weeks is have faith in your elected officials, because they certainly have a passion and a care for the students of Central Valley. Whether you agree with what they decided to do, don't agree with what they decided to do, they certainly have a passion for the children here at Central Valley, as does the entire staff. So we are ready to embrace the students coming back, and certainly look forward to Monday and the days beyond that as well. Secondly, flexible instructional days. So I've hesitated to put a lot of information out on this because of the students that are home. And I didn't want to create mass confusion with regards to what flexible instructional days are. But flexible instructional days now, school districts have the opportunity to not do snow days, where before you had a snow day, you had to make up the snow day. Now, instead of a snow day, they have what they call flexible instructional days, which is no different than what we're currently doing right now with our kids being home synchronously. So I'll be sending out communication that should we have weather problems moving forward once the kids get back here on Monday, that we will enact flexible instructional days in lieu of calling off school. So if we have to have a snow day where we would typically call off school, we will now just call it a flexible instructional day, and it'll be a synchronous learning day just like the kids are doing right now. So instead of us making an announcement, no school tomorrow, it would be the announcement that we're going to a synchronous learning day or a flexible instructional day in lieu of that. In the calendar where you have the snow days that are currently listed, those would just be days off for the kids. So I'll be sending communication home on that as soon as tomorrow for the school community to understand that. So that's a little bit of a change. Our teachers are ready for that. The example of the 2 water main breaks, those are great examples of what potentially could have been a flexible instructional day. So instead of having to call off school because we had the water main break and we had no water, we would just call it a flexible instructional day and the kids would stay home and learn synchronously and log on like they're currently do. So that's going to be communicated as well. I do want to thank the board for the time and effort that was put into not only this, the other projects and things that we've done in this district. I am very proud. I mean, I've been superintendent here for 7 years. I'm very proud to lead this district. And I can assure the school community that, I will lead us through kindergarten. I will lead us through whatever the future brings, whether it's kindergarten, whether it's the expansion of the Center Grange building and or other projects that are done, middle school, high school, so on and so forth. So I don't believe that this will be the end to the discussion about things that are needed done here in the school district. And I can assure you that as we move forward, after tonight's vote, that, there's a lot of things that need to be discussed and done between now and the fruition of a new program putting in place. So there's lots of decisions that will need to be made, scope and sequence of things like building projects and so on and so forth. So what was presented to you was options and possible scenarios for what the future may bring. Obviously, there's going to need to be other decisions as we move forward to address curriculum, to address any space needs, so on and so forth. So what you saw on paper isn't necessarily what the end product will be. There'll be a lot of decisions that need to be made between now and potentially, 2-3 years down the road if, we get to the point where that program is in place. So as we move forward, we'll certainly continue to keep the community abreast of what's going on. Maybe we can do better to communicate things. I don't think the pandemic certainly has helped anything with regards to communication. I will say that, I don't believe it was anybody's intention on this board to not be transparent and or to provide information to the public, which is obvious by, if you look back at the minutes, these things were mentioned going forward. Maybe people didn't understand the scope of what was going on, but it certainly was not from a lack of the board wanting the public to be involved. Ever since I've been here, I've always wanted the public to be involved. And lastly, with regards to community involvement, there was no intent not to have a second public meeting here because of the numbers of people that came last week and the number of people that were online. It was just kind of thought that, well, we'll just go back to the online board meeting because of the pandemic. Why open up the school if we're gonna not get a lot of people here. We did receive a few emails of people saying, have a public meeting, and that's why the board decided to do that. So I don't believe there was any intent not to involve the public. So I said a lot, and that's what I got, and we're looking forward to, like I said, having the kids back Monday. And one more thing, please, parents, we've sent communication home with regards to sending your kids, not saying, if your kids are sick, keep them home. There is no reason to send them to school. I mean, and I understand childcare, but we've been doing it for 6 weeks now without that inconvenience, which I realize is inconvenient, but keep them home. I mean, they're going to learn from home. They're going to get to the instruction. You've seen it now. For those of you who sent their kids from day one and didn't do any synchronous instruction, we all see what it is now. And it's a viable option for those students that aren't feeling well or exposed. And please communicate with our nurses. Nurses are working around the clock to try to keep our kids safe, keep our staff safe. So please keep your kids home if they don't feel well. Thank you.
Welcome. Board member comments. I'm going to start with Mr. Zaritsky.
I just have one, and it's kind of piggybacking off of Dr. Perry and some of what was expressed tonight on going back to minutes and looking at some things. So just kind of want it noted, and it was brought up during the roll call vote, that there were 2 committees with this study. There was the kindergarten committee and the finance committee. And anybody correct me if I'm wrong, that the kindergarten committee voted to move forward and the finance committee voted to not. So I want to make sure that those committees and that thing is clear in the minutes. It is moved forward. It has been voted on and everything, but I don't want any misunderstanding on how things went and what involvement was going on. So that's my only comment.
Okay, Mr. Bloom?
I want to thank the members of the committee for the effort we put forth. I think we did a good job doing the presentation. We value everybody's opinion. Come down to a board vote. It is what it is. See what happens. Democratic process. Now, we'll move forward with the curriculum plan.
Mr. Ross?
First, I'd like to thank Dr. Perry for the nice, kind words he had to say about all his people on the board and the things that we have accomplished and the decisions that we make. And thought he handled it really nice. And I don't know if he really feels that, but he said he did a real nice job telling us. It's a lot of compliments, and I do appreciate that as a board member. And as far as the community that is here tonight and also virtually, I really do appreciate. I wish more people would have come out last week. We had nobody, and we had 3 people that were for this. Okay, 3 or 4 people I think wrote in for the all day, every day, but no negatives. So we had all week thinking this was good, that the public was okay with this. All right. And obviously tonight we had a difference of opinions, and we have pro and we have con, and the decisions have to be made. And I base mine on the data that we did as a committee, as far as the need for all day. I mean, when you have 82% in Pennsylvania of all schools, this is what they're doing, and more are moving towards that. I mean, I think, and then the experience that I've had, and Ms. Balcastro and our administrator, and their people that work and do this every day, I'm thinking we did the right thing to definitely do this for our kids. And hopefully, my main thing is get my $500,000 back, okay, to save it. And I believe in our finance chairperson, Mr. Ambrose, and his assessment on how this district is going to be able to grow. And we're tax dollars down the road. And I hope he's right. I believe in him. I know he put a lot of work in this. Sorry, there was a misunderstanding with the commissioner and his comment. Hopefully we can overlook that and make up on that. But I think everything else that Mr. Ambrose has done, with the work he has put in to show where we're going to get this money and where it's coming down the road. I'm hoping that with the money that we save at Baden Academy down the road, if this continues to go through, and with the people, how the tax base will grow in this community, I think we're in good shape. The only other thing I just want to mention, we talk about doing the middle school, we talk about doing the high school, okay? Believe me, there's nobody in this room that thinks bigger than I do with wanting to do a first-class job in every one of our buildings. Trust me when I tell you that. I mean, I would, like I said last week, I love the Taj Mahal in all our buildings. But I don't know the public understands, there's no way we can afford, you don't think we can afford this? There's no way right now we can afford attacking a middle school or a high school. There's no way. At least we have some money that we think is going to be coming back. Hopefully will come back from Baden Academy. You go in and your tax dollars will go up if we went right into the middle school and try to float a bond. That's where the money will come from. There's no other side like this Baden Academy thing. But again, I thank the community for giving up your time. And I know, Dana, you also, because I know you're a busy guy, and to give up your time to come here tonight. So I respect you for that. And the people that are on virtual, I respect them for putting up with the last 2 board meetings and listening to all the conversation.
Dr. Yunus,
I'd like you to come back to me. Thank you.
Mr. O'Neill,
Nothing, thank you.
Mr.
I
King.
just want to thank the board members that had their comments and the parents that had their comments. I appreciate all of it. And Mr. Camp, I appreciate him being here too. Thank you.
I appreciate the parents coming out and everyone that had questions online. We have a big day coming up on Monday with the students returning. I know Center Grange has some good surprises in store for the students when they come back to try to make them feel welcome and get back on track and hit the ground running. And like Dr. Perry said, we really appreciate the support of the community through this time. We've tried to do the best we can to educate these children and give them as much a sense of normalcy as possible. And it hasn't always been successful, but like I said, everyone's worked really hard to do it, and we appreciate everyone's cooperation. When it comes to the all-day kindergarten, we have a consensus of the board, and I can tell you from my history on this board, once we have a consensus, we'll move forward to do this in the best way we could possibly do it. We will do it with finances in mind and do this to the best of our ability to not impact the taxpayers as best we do it in a successful way to this district. So I know this board will work that way to do it.
Mr. Ambrose?
Dr. Eunice.
Pardon me?
I thought Dr. Eunice wants to go.
Dr. Eunice, did you have something?
I'm not ready yet. Go ahead. That's fine. Mr. Ambrose can go.
Okay.
Did I?
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out, and I'm going to switch gears and say the past few weeks and months with the kids being home on their iPads. Number one, it was a great situation and thought process for the past 7 or 8 years, because when these kids had to go online, we were ready for it. And that's thanks to our technology people, our superintendent, whatever. But more importantly, I had the opportunity these past few weeks when I had a 3rd, 5th, and 6th grader at my home, my grandchildren. And the patience and the professionalism that all these instructors exuberated was absolutely phenomenal. I don't know where they get their patience. They've done a tremendous job, and I'd stack them up against anybody, anytime. With that, Dr. Perry, please, I in some way bestow that to the feelings of our faculty. I'm just very proud of them.
We all are.
Yes,
Eunice?
yes. As a lifelong resident of Central Valley, I'm going to say that the project that we voted for tonight is a tough one that's going to have to be handled. I don't know that it's the best thing to do in the middle of a worldwide pandemic with our highest jobless rates and no guarantee of funding for sure. I am on the committee, finance committee. We did vote no to the project. I hope that we consider all these different things that come up. We've catastrophic problems with water lines and different things that, $25,000 deductible has struck, and we have $30,000 to play with. I'm not sure if something else happens. I'm concerned about that. I worry about all the children in our school district, not just the young ones, but all of them. So I hope to God that we don't have any other catastrophic problems with heating or electrical or anything that gives us a problem. So all I could say is we'll do our best to deal with it.
Okay.
Did you?
And I want to thank the individuals who attended tonight and those who emailed. I appreciate your input. I would love for you to get everybody involved in coming to these meetings. So maybe we can work on that. Public comments.
Yeah, there's a couple.
I'll read them.
We have a couple more public comments.
Yeah, let me get through those here on the spreadsheet. This one was a holdover. Lily Casita, as a student, why should I come back for in-person schooling? What is going to be done differently this time around that will make me and other students feel safe?
So before you jump on, I'm gonna respond to that one with regards to our students feeling safe. I'm not positive whether or not she was here or not here prior to the synchronous shutdown. The mitigation efforts we had in place before will be the same mitigation efforts that are in place now. Certainly, the beauty, I think, of our model is that parents and students have choice. And if you don't feel comfortable to come in, then certainly, we embrace that, 100%. And, I believe that I'm very confident that you're going to receive the same level of instruction every student who's physically in the building. I think we've proved that. So I would just say that if you're not comfortable coming back, we'll do everything we can to make your experience the best as possible. And if you are coming back, then we're certainly here to embrace that and do everything we can to make our students comfortable while they're here as well.
There are three more comments. Vanessa Fontana, as an educator in a neighboring district, I wanted to extend my thoughts and professional insights on the benefits of Central Valley School District transitioning to a full-day kindergarten program. Central Valley is the only school district in the county to not offer a full-day program, which puts our young students at a disadvantage to students in neighboring districts. I, as I know all of you, take pride in our district and feel that Central Valley should be the example of a district that people want to move into, not one that is lacking in supports and services. Countless peer-reviewed studies have concluded that the benefits of a full-day kindergarten program far outweigh the disadvantages. In the past, kindergarten was our students' first experience with schooling. However, 42% of 3-year-olds, 66% of 4-year-olds, and 86% of 5-year-olds were already enrolled in pre-K programs. Both the National Association of School Psychologists and Niche Resources, which we look to for school ratings, have studied and referenced the benefits to full-day kindergarten programs. Marcus Brown, I am a parent of a child that will enter kindergarten in the 2021 school year, who currently attends pre-K counts at Todd Lane, and 2 other students that are currently in the school district. While I can be pleased with the decision not to move forward with building a new wing and gym due to financial feasibility, I do, on the other hand, wish to ask that you assess all possibilities that the board can consider as alternatives to being able to house full-day kindergarten classes. Reviewing some of the state standard tests in high school as well as elementary, our school district has gone to great measures to ensure our kids have the best opportunity to develop and reduce those educational gaps. I can speak to that firsthand as my current 3rd grader took part in some of those programs. There will be varying academic results with any option chosen. We have to give the kids the opportunity to seek more educational time with the teachers now to practice those skills. With the district's best practices, full-day kindergarten will give them the greatest opportunity for educational success and increased student achievement. Finding room within current buildings will provide this opportunity for future classes while the academic gaps are currently the smallest. This additional time with teachers will allow our students to continue to grow academically. Thank you for your time. Last comment, even if Michael Walmsley. Even if full-time kindergarten is to pull back any students, Central Valley still has the opportunity to lose those students as they progress in their educational careers and encounter rundown and inferior structures at the middle school and high school level. That concludes the internet comments.
Okay. If there isn't anything else, can I have a
Mr. Camp raises his hand.
Mr. Camp?
For the public comment on non-agenda items, I'm sorry, I'm not sure your last name, sir.
Halsey?
Solicitor Housing, can you just, because I did ask a question whenever I spoke, can you just inform the public on what the vote actually meant tonight? Because you informed the public on what it would mean if it was turned down. So will the board now be going out to secure financing and secure curriculum? I know it's a long process, 2.5 years. That's my first question. Can you explain, at least to the public who's listening, because I'm getting a lot of messages already. What does that mean? They voted yes. What does it mean?
Sure. So it means that the board has authorized Dr. Perry to begin the process of implementing the program. And I apologize, I don't know the entirety of the nuts and bolts of it, but I'm sure he'll be starting the process of presenting options to the board for funding for additional space at the elementary, the primary school, looking to secure or determine options for the curriculum moving forward. So there will be additional votes that need to be taken over the course of these next several years as this program is implemented. So this is basically just telling Dr. Perry to move forward until the next step in the process, and perhaps he can
I would just
tell
say
you what his next plan is.
Things that are going to need to be done. I mean, obviously, what the architects provided with regards to potential options on the building itself. I mean, that was 10,000 feet. Now the process would be to start meeting with staff members, talk about the program needs, things like that, and then they would start finalizing options for space. As we said earlier, when you looked at the initial initial numbers for, let's just say, the renovation. I mean, that included classroom spaces, that included gymnasium, things like that. The board's going to need to make decisions moving forward as to the scope of which they would want to do something like that if we continue to move forward. Curriculum wise, we would need to start working with the teaching staff on developing curriculum for, a half-day program to a full-day program. Plus, students are going to get classes that they didn't get before. There's going to be specials and things like that that they didn't get. So curriculum needed to be developed. That'll take a year to do something like that. So those processes would start. As far as securing funding, I would think that before the board would secure any funding, they would want to know exactly what we're going to fund. So that I would say the work with the architect and that planning of the architect, if you remember back at the presentation, they had, a planning of multiple months of planning, which is done with, like I said, collaboration with staff on spaces, things like that. And then they fine tune potentially what the building project may look like as far as scope and money cost. And then those types of things would have to go out for, there would be public presentations on, okay, this is what we're going to do as far as the building goes. And this is what we're going to do. No different than with Todd Lane. If you recall, when we did work at Todd Lane, we walked through that with the public, starting from the beginning analysis to the end. So
I'm very familiar. I just wanted to make sure the public knew I was already.
And I'm hoping I'm doing a good job of articulating
Absolutely.
what potential the future holds.
Two quick other things. As I said, I'm sure the board, once the vote's over, it's over. You guys will find a way to move forward. I'm confident that the communities in Center Township, Monaca, Potter will get behind this and support it because, as we said, everyone supports all-day kindergarten. I think the last thing to take out of this is when I hear about the online program, as Mr. Ambrose said, make sure you pass everything on to your teachers. Even though we're in a worldwide pandemic and it's normally all bad news, I think one thing we can agree, something good has came out of it. If something happens to one of your facilities that you don't have the money to fix, we could send those kids home and still have that education they need. So that is one thing that we have positive out of the pandemic because, as Dr. Yunus mentioned in his comments, your capital reserve is already used this year with that last flood. So there may be times where we have to dip into the reserve fund. So
I also think the state of education moving forward, you talk about cyber charter numbers and kids who potentially want to be in a different atmosphere than the traditional brick and mortar. I think this potentially has allowed Central Valley School District to meet the needs of both those students that are traditional brick and mortar kids and those who potentially consider moving forward would like to continue on sort of a cyber type program where they're home but still receiving the same education that everyone else in the classroom is because we're there sync. So I think moving forward, this may change the way we've done things forever. Only time will tell. Before you leave, I would like to meet with you and Ms. Cole real quick at the end because I have a question with regards to our latchkey program.
you know what? Can I make a pitch for Ms. Cool? That we fund some money to the latchkey program.
Say that again?
Can I make a pitch for Ms. Cool on stand? Fund the latchkey program?
Well, the latchkey program is completely separate. That's a whole nother discussion, but I do want to share with you some needs that the program has.
Can I?
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Zirinsky, second. Mr. Ambrose. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.